The cap tourniquet and the SOFTT wide are the two most popular tourniquets that you're going to find on the market today. Both of them are used by the law enforcement and military agencies of the U.S. and around the world. So they are the most recognizable and the most that are actually trained with specifically. But there are alternatives out there. But before we talk about that, let's go ahead and talk about the uses of each, the pros and cons rather. So let's start off with the cap tourniquet. So I'll take my SOFTT wide out. Now this is obviously a training tourniquet because I have this marked T for training. And of course I've darkened this up a little bit so it's not so bright. And it's obviously been used a good amount. But anyways, let's start with the pros of the cap tourniquet. Number one, it's very easy to use one-handed. It also has no metal on it, so you're not going to have to worry about jingling or anything like that. And it's very good for finding like a lot of carriers for these things. So if you want a tourniquet, you can find a lot of aftermarket like carriers, like different pouches or whatever, then the cap tourniquet is the way to go. It's also heavily used universally, like almost every training class you're going to go to, anybody that's even talking about the use of a tourniquet, the cap tourniquet's probably like the number one tourniquet that's being used by them. So, now does that mean it's the perfect tourniquet? Nope, because we do have some cons. Number one, there are a lot of copies of the cap tourniquet. Not good copies. These are like knockoff copies because this is a patented item. So, you'll see a lot of these, like if you type in tourniquet on Amazon, you will get a lot that look like this, but the windlass is thinner, and in fact, there was a medic in Ukraine that was actually trying to use one of these knockoff tourniquets. His technique was terrible. He wasn't even using the tourniquet properly, and he ended up breaking the windlass. Or not the windlass, but the internal piece here on the knockoff tourniquet actually broke, and so it just lost all of its tension. Also, these are one-use items, or single-use items, so you're not going to be like training with the tourniquet you're going to use, right? Because it's not designed to actually be used multiple times. It's made just well enough to actually be reliable for one use, for the most part. And also, this is a Velcro-only system, so that Velcro has to defeat, issues like blood, dirt, sand, whatever condition it's in. So again, when I said it's an advantage that there's multiple carriers, this system actually needs it to protect the Velcro because this is the primary system that's holding it all together. So when you actually tighten the tourniquet around a limb, that's really where you make your money, is the tightening of it. So you got to make sure that Velcro is secure and that there's enough Velcro to grip. That's why also these are not very good for small-limbed individuals like the people in Africa who are generally going through some phase of starvation, are not going to really be able to use the cap tourniquet because their arms, their legs are just not big enough. So that's where you have to look at different alternatives that will work. And they also don't work for canines either. Now, to add to the Velcro problem, it's very susceptible to snagging because once it's on and it's attached, there will be a good amount that is just hanging off, and you have to find a way to secure it. And typically the way to do that is once the windlass is tightened down is to take the extra bit and put it through here and put this cover over it and secure it in place. That's the best way to do that. But if you just don't have enough of that, or it's not working for that, like it goes around a big thick leg, then it can still be undone. It can just be ripped out from friction or something like that if you're not able to secure it properly or well enough. So there's some risk there, and I've seen it happen when they were actually being used for real, like being seriously used for somebody who was bleeding out. So let's go ahead and move on to the SOFTT wide. Alright, so let's start with pros. The SOFTT wide has no Velcro and no real snag risk. Once you tighten this down, the only way you would be able to loosen it up would be if you were to intentionally push this piece up once it was tightened down. And it would actually take a good bit of effort. Like when I practice self-application of tourniquets, like especially the SOFTT wide, I have issues getting this off because of this piece right here. Because I start with this piece and then I loosen it up if the windlass is giving me issues, because every now and then it will. Also, it's a multi-use item. You can train with the tourniquet you're going to use. It's meant to be used several times. It's built very well. It's got like seatbelt material for the strap, and the windlass is metal, very good quality coating on it, very hard polymer on the latest generations instead of that tiny little metal loop or whatever that used to get snagged up and be a real problem. It's really come a long way just in the few corrections that they've done in the latest generations. So it also resets easy if you're training with them, whereas the cat, you have to actually undo it and take it out of this tri-glide and get this internal band that the windlass is connected to actually go from, you know, here all the way to the tip and straighten it out and pull them apart and get it as far through as possible so you don't have like a bunch of extra slack on this line. This one, it's very easy. You just pull right here. You don't have to do anything fancy for it. Now, let's look at the cons. As I alluded to earlier, it can be very hard to get this off once you apply it one-handed, but getting it on one-handed is difficult enough. It is very difficult. When you tighten it down really hard, you're going to get like 1 and 2.5 turns maybe, if you're lucky, and you're going to struggle to get that third one on. And I've had instances where I've done self-application and it was actually just faster for me to loop the excess strap around the end to counter this thing trying to undo itself, and then go around the other end and counter that piece and just hold it in place with the remaining strap. And that was the way I was able to keep circulation cut off. But if you're to use this on another person, it wouldn't be a problem. You could just crank through it and deal with it, use leverage, whatever you need to do. But self-application, it's a bit of a problem. Also, this does have a good amount of metal in it, so it's got a metal windlass. This is metal right here, and it's actually cheap little cast metal. Not cheap in the sense of quality, but cheap in the sense of being relatively thin. So it does echo a bit. So if I didn't have this duct tape on here for silencing, this thing would jingle a lot more than it does. Now it just sounds kind of like a plastic, plastic on plastic jiggling, because that's all there is left. Just that little bit of loosely applied duct tape was able to silence it. So also, this thing does not hold form. So when you fold it up, obviously these straps are loose. And it's not like the Velcro of the cat tourniquets that kind of holds the form in place. This is how I have it in a cargo pocket if I'm wearing like camis or a uniform or even my concealed carry cargo pants. That's how I'll carry a tourniquet. It's basically the same way I carry the cat tourniquet. It's just done with the SOFTT wide instead. So, you got to find a way to carry it and store it appropriately. Now, there aren't as many carriers for the SOFTT wide. However, like the 111, I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below for a pretty good universal carrier that I like for both of these. But you won't find as many carriers for the SOFTT wide, at least dedicated carriers, but you'll find some pretty good universal carriers for these tourniquets. So just be diligent in your research. So these are the two most popular tourniquets that are being used relatively universally. However, there are some alternatives, and it basically is a cat tourniquet with an alteration to the metal or the Velcro strap. So that would be the SAM XT tourniquet, and I don't have one, but it's one that I was actually looking at getting to train with. But the SAM XT tourniquet has holes in the sides, then it uses Velcro and those holes. There's like a little pressure block that has two little studs that pop out inwards, and when you tighten the strap down really hard, which is where you make your money on tourniquets, and that initial tie down is where all the money's made, it'll pop into place and lock the strap in place. So you still want to use the Velcro to prevent like tearing of the material over time, but then you can crank the windlass without having to worry about the Velcro being exposed to blood and not having a very good grip or anything like that. But the way you secure it would be in my opinion, should be the same as the cat. Once you're done doing the windlass and you get the windlass inside here, you get your strap here and you flow it through the top here, and then you put your marker or your time strap over the top there, just like so. Put all your excess through there and then hold it down with the time strap. So that said, that would be my recommendation on an alternative. That way you have something that's good one-handed but doesn't really have as many of the downsides as the cat. Now, as far as being multi-use, I don't know if it would really last being a multi-use item. I highly doubt that they actually recommend that, but yeah, I guess you'd have to just do follow-on research. I'm just giving you a quick little alternative that I know of that will kind of answer some of the issues of both. So anyways, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Which one do you prefer? If you use a knockoff, how do you work with them? What's your justification for using a knockoff of the cat? And, you know, just start a little conversation. Medical is important. You guys have a good one.